Perfect. Ms. Hawkins, if you'd like to go first.
Good evening. I'm Bridget Hawkins, and I'm the Democrat candidate for the family court judge position. I would like to thank AAUW and the Bellefonte Examiner for sponsoring this event. I am the second oldest of 7 children of Charles and Paulette Hawkins. I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and during my youth, my parents instilled in me the values of hard work and getting a good education. To that end, I received my Bachelor's of Science degree excuse me, in criminal justice from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. I obtained my law degree from Ohio Northern University. I have also served in the United States Air Force Reserve and achieved the rank of Master Sergeant. I began my legal career in Lima, Ohio, representing indigent clients in administrative hearings for Medicaid and Medicare issues, as well as domestic relations cases, including divorce, custody, visitation, and child support. In 1995, I came to beautiful Bellefonte, Ohio, where I joined the law firm of Beck and Beck. During that time at her office, I worked in the area of domestic relations, do the same thing, custody, divorces, child support, adoptions, everything in family law. After Ms. Beck became judge of the municipal court, I then added some areas of bankruptcy and probate to my practice. Okay. I've been a certified mediator and also service guardian ad litem. I'm actually involved in my church, and I'm a member of the Bellefonte Exchange Club, where I serve as president. I serve on several boards as appointed by the judges, and since I can't ask her any questions, I love to be judge, I really love the law, and I think I would do a good job. So thank you for listening to my story, and I guess I'll see you in November.
Good evening. I'm Kim Kellogg-Martin, and I support the family. I was born in 1958. I will be turning 56 years old. I'm the oldest of 5 children. That made me responsible at an early age. I'm very fortunate because I had 2 parents that both went to college after they had a family. I was born in poverty but never knew it because I was always surrounded by love. My dad served in the Marine Corps, so you can imagine there was structure in my home. I never heard of court because it was taken care of in our living room, and I knew if I got in trouble at school, it would be twice as bad when I got home. Why am I running for family court judge? I ran 10 years ago because I'm passionate about the issues that the court handles, and I have lots of years of experience handling these issues. I'm running because I had a really fun childhood. And I always felt safe, and I always felt loved, and I really believe every child deserves those same kinds of feelings. Children should always feel safe, but that's not always the case. I am very passionate about protecting and strengthening the family. My family was my first community. Your community are people who have common interests. I then went to school, and that became a community. And every place I've been, whether it was middle school, high school, college, post-college, I have stayed involved in every community I'm a part of because that's how you know your community. And our community is great, but our community it will be healthier when we acknowledge that we have major drug problems and a crisis in parenting. And I want to pull everybody together to come to the table. And I have faith that the good people of Logan County will do things to give us a better home for children and a safer, healthier Logan County, Ohio. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dan LaRoche, and I'm a Republican candidate for family court judge. I am 41 years old, and since everyone is telling you their family lineage, I am the youngest, which means I was the one who bore the brunt and got the hand-me-downs. I've been an attorney in this county for 15 years, 8 years of private practice, 6 years as an assistant prosecutor, And for the last 14 months, I've served as a magistrate in the family court. I'll be the only candidate before you this spring and this fall with judicial experience. I believe I'm well suited to the work. I decide every case employing 3 principles: to be fair, to be firm, and to be consistent. I've lived in this county. I'm a carpetbagger compared to Kim. I've only been here 38 years. But, you live in a place that long, and you start to owe the place a little bit of something. This county has seen me and my family through good times and bad, and I think I owe something back. I have a desire to serve, to help the families through their issues. I am not foolish enough to believe that we will solve all of them, but I am determined enough to try. I have several goals for our court: to improve the service. My father ran a grocery store that I worked at from the age of about 13 till the age of about 22. And I learned from him the value of customer service, and I believe we should employ that in our court. And I'm going to do that as I do now through timeliness of hearings, issuing decisions in a timely fashion. And when you work for a judge who is a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Air Force, you make sure you start things on time. And we're also going to secure funding for our drug court, which is a fantastic program. I thank you for your time.
Good evening. I'm Eric Stewart, and I'm also running for family court judge on the Republican ballot. I am currently the chief assistant prosecutor for the county, and I've got over 14 years of courtroom experience handling all number of cases. Where I differentiate myself from the other candidates is I actually have 2 years working as the juvenile prosecutor. I spent 2 years in juvenile court working under Judge Brady, learning the ropes and rules of juvenile court, the various statutes, and all the resources available in the community that are available for our youth. My wife and I, we moved to Logan County in 2000. We settled our roots here. We raised 3 children here. And the reason I'm running for family court judge is because I love working with youth and working with families. In my professional life, I've prosecuted many cases involving abused children, neglected children, children that have been even sexually abused. And when you get to work with them before trial, during trial, and even after trial, and you get to see the justice and the healing that comes, it really inspires you to want to work for and to continue protecting children. Outside of work, I am also heavily involved with youth. I'm involved with youth in sports, teaching, working basketball, soccer, you name it, all kinds of sports, as well as working with the Boy Scouts of America. I'm a Scoutmaster for Troop 121, where we teach boys not just about outdoor skills, camping and hiking and first aid, but also teach them about how to be good, honest citizens and be moral and work for their communities. I believe I have the background and the passion and skill for working with youth, and I will appreciate your vote. Thank you.
All right, in first order, we'll go to Ms. Kellogg-Martin and then to the candidates. First question. Drug use and substance abuse play a major role in many cases that come before family court. Please discuss your overall approach and the role of family court in addressing the drug problem in this community.
25 years ago, if it had been suggested that the court deal with the drug problem, I don't think anybody would have believed it, because courts were not set up to deal with these social ills. But I would argue as a former defense attorney that we needed to get to the root cause of the problem. So I believe when you have the specialty docket that has a drug court, when run appropriately, which it is, it's a great thing to have. I support what the court currently does. It is also based on grant money, and I bring the unique skill set because I'm currently winding up a grant where I had to work with $1.4 million. So I understand how grants are obtained, I understand how they work, and I understand the pitfalls of the grants. You got to be careful because when those grants end, you do not want to burden your county with cost of workers' comp and unemployment. So it is a great thing to have a drug court for both the parents and the children, because we need to reach out to people, because if you can touch their hearts and support them, you can have hope, because it's been proven through drug court people can get better.
The drug court is important. As I've been a magistrate, I've had the opportunity to sit in and administer that court numerous times, and I can tell you that it works. That concept was born about 25 years ago in Miami-Dade County in Florida. Our local drug court's been in place for about 10 years thanks to the work of Judge Brady and Annette Dio, and I'm happy to be working with them now. If you don't know how it works, it's all about accountability. The clients in the drug treatment court are urine tested 4 times a week. You might fool the test once in a while, but you're not going to fool it 4 times a week. They appear once a week in front of the judge, and basically the treatment people will tell you we remove barriers. We give them gas cards, we give them transportation, we get them to appointments. I call it removing excuses. My wife used to be a counselor at Consolidated Care. She saw that her biggest frustration in working with people who abuse substances was getting them to the appointments. The frustration that you can't help people if they aren't there. So I understand the difficulties that the social services agencies have. In drug court, we take those problems away, we get the families there, and we reunite these families, because that's where the kids should be. We get these families back together and off of drugs. I've seen over the course of my career a progression of drug abuse in this county. When I started practicing back in the late 90s, crack cocaine was a big problem here. It proceeded into prescription opiate painkillers, and now we have heroin. We have to have a program for these people, and we have to help them, and that's what the drug court does, and under my leadership it will continue to do that.
I could tell you horror story after horror story of people getting addicted to drugs, but I'm of the belief that most of you probably have already had that experience in your own families, and having to deal with those issues. What I'd like to talk about a little bit is, when I was a juvenile court prosecutor, one thing that I noticed, and what the other court personnel noticed, is that the juveniles that were involved in their schools, that were involved in their activities, whether it's sports or band or 4-H or Boy Scouts or any of those activities, those kids were less likely to get involved in drugs, less likely to get involved in crime. As a prosecutor, I could easily estimate over 75% of the crimes that we're prosecuting are drug related. And the message really needs to be out to the parents to get your kids involved. And as the family court judge, the juvenile court judge, they have the authority to order parents, when a juvenile gets into trouble, order the parents to make sure that those parents are involved in those kids' lives. Because I've seen plenty of kids without stable homes, without any supervision at all, just getting into all kinds of trouble, and you've got to get those parents in, you've got to hold them accountable, bring them before the court, and you can put, the juvenile court has the authority to put orders on them. For those families that have children or other family members that get addicted to drugs, I have every intent to continue the family drug court program. There's family drug court program for adults, there's also one for juveniles, and I'd love to see that continue. It is funded by grants, and I do everything I could to make sure it keeps going. You can't you'll never have 100%. I've seen parents spend $50,000 to send a child to a private facility and then come back and use drugs right after they get out. But my intent is to continue the program. Thank you.
LaRoche, you'll be first up. One of the roles of the family court judge involves the administration of a public office. What administrative qualifications do you have to oversee the staff?
Well, being a part of the family court on a monthly basis, I am a part of 3 group meetings, management meetings that involve the judges, the magistrates, the department heads, wherein we discuss budget and policy issues. We just had one of those today, as a matter of fact. We also have on a monthly basis a judge-magistrate meeting, in which we again discuss budget, policy, and personnel issues. We also have community partner meetings where again the judicial officers, the probation department, the schools, law enforcement and counseling and social service agencies all come together to ensure that we're all on the same page about things. It's familiarity with that process that's going to give me an advantage over my opponents. I have a good knowledge of our staff, some of which are here tonight, and I'm happy to have them here. They do fantastic work for you, the citizens of this county. And if anybody tells you that they need an attitude adjustment or to change the way that they do things, I'm here to tell you, for a group that is spread over 3 buildings because of the courthouse situation, those critics are wrong. I have been involved in every office that I've been in, involved in job interviews for new staffing. When I was at the prosecutor's office, Mr. Gosley and I used to stay late and discuss matters. He would ply me for my opinion on things, and I appreciate that involvement in the administration of the office. Mr. Heaton did that a little bit as well. And in private practice for 8 years, I was involved in personnel decisions there. I managed a busy practice that involved all 3 divisions of what is now the family court. And I'll also refer back to my family experience. I watched my family run a small business for my entire youth. I know how important it is to give good customer service, and I'm going to apply those same principles to the family court.
In 2007, I became the chief assistant prosecutor for the county. So for the last 7 years, I've been involved in all the administrative processes at the prosecutor's office. In fact, just in the last couple of years, we've had to replace almost half of our staff because of retirements or employees finding other employment. And part of that process obviously involves the interviewing, but the training of employees. I'm not a micromanager, but when we bring in new employees, I sit down and I train them on the various aspects. We have a very knowledge-intensive profession, learning the whole legal system, teaching them about the computer system, the filing system, all those aspects. But once you train them, then you got to give them the freedom for them to find the most effective and efficient ways to let them do their job. And we have found that to be very effective in our office. I've conducted numerous trainings for law enforcement, trainings on search and seizure, investigative techniques, training them on the rules of evidence and how to testify in court. As a trial attorney, I have orchestrated some major trials for the county. And many people don't realize what that goes into, but you've got to muster all the law enforcement officers involved. You've got to muster the professional expert witnesses, your exhibits, your witness coordinators, meeting with witnesses, preparing your legal arguments and brief, also that you have a smooth transition in a trial that can last anywhere from a couple days up to weeks. And I've repeatedly shown that I can orchestrate these major trials time after time. Thank you.
For 9 years leading up to 2007, I served as the Chief Assistant Prosecutor for this county. For a number of years, I implemented many systems designed to train the staff to make them self-sufficient. I'm proud to tell you that they still use many of the forms that I created, search warrant forms that I created. But that was part of my job. That wasn't the management that I believe we're talking about. When we talk about administrative skills and experience, I have 16 years. I'm a businesswoman. I owned and established and operated my own law practice. That's something that you have to make lots of decisions. You have to hire people. You have to learn about payroll. You have to learn about the taxes, the insurance. I did that. I ran my own office. I also served as the chief assistant. When Mr. Heaton was away or unable to serve, I was in charge. I know how to make tough decisions. I talk out of one side of my mouth. That's important in management. You've got to be consistent, especially when you deal with a big staff. The commissioners asked me to serve as the child support director. I went into that building with 16 people. I learned a lot. I was directly in charge. I had to teach a lot of things about the Ohio Administrative Code, and I noticed right away that they had specialized, which was fine with the staff that big. But when I learned and heard about the budget and what was coming down the pike, I knew it was time to start going back into doing what we call cross-training. I gotta tell you, it's tough. People don't like to change sometimes, but that cross-training, I believe, was so important because when the child support budget was gone and people had to be laid off, they were ready to go to serve the people. So I've done that, and I currently am the project director and fiscal officer for a national emergency grant. I have managed people. It's not always easy, but I enjoy doing it, and I have that experience. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Stewart, you'll go first. Logan County has operated on a flat budget for several years now. With no foreseeable increases in the near future, how would you fund the court and maintain current levels of service without raising the court's request to the Logan County Commissioners? Or, if you believe additional funding is necessary for the court, what funding stream do you propose using?
The family court operates on a budget of about $2 million. $700,000 of that is based on money that comes from the state called Reclaim Ohio dollars, and the rest, $101.3 million, comes from court costs that are collected, grants. There are 2 substantial grants that the family courts gets, and there are other contracts that the family court has with other agencies that bring in money. I am used to working in an office where we have not had a budget increase for years. In fact, the employees in our office have not had a raise for the last 6 years, yet they continue working as hard as they ever have. And in fact, their caseload has doubled, and they continue to do the job that they have to do. I'm a team player. I don't believe that, if the money's not there, the money's not there. We can't go ask for additional money. But there are many things that the juvenile court has a very fine line. I talked about the Reclaim Ohio dollars. The state prison system for juveniles. If you send a juvenile to prison, that will count against the money that you get from the state, and you have to know the other resources that are available, such as the JDC, the community-based correctional facilities. You use those facilities as best you can so that you continue to get the money that is needed from the state. I myself would like to see new programs brought to the juvenile court, community service programs for those kids that are involved in crimes and stealing from others, damaging property. Let's get them out working, out in the parks, picking up trash, painting curbs, mowing lawns, those types of things. Get them working, and we can do that with the staff that we already have without costing extra money to the county.
Budgets are your budget, and you have to work within those budgets. We do that within our own households, and if you don't, we've all got relatives and families that don't always make good decisions. I think when you look at the budget, you have to consider a lot of things. And of course, since I don't work with that budget, I'm not going to stand here and pretend I know. I would tell you though, in child support, we had to look at what's called attrition. You have to look at when somebody's getting ready to retire, can you fill the gap with the staff that you currently have? Because if you can, that's a wonderful opportunity to be able to keep people energized. They have to work differently, and then you can create maybe some money to do some cost of living adjustments, because it is hard to work without having received an increase in your pay for a long time. That's tough. So I would definitely consider attrition. That would be one thing we would have to look at. Another thing that is I'm thinking of is if we can collaborate and work with the school systems and Ohio High Point and help develop a system where we can get people back to work and start paying their child support, then you would keep the court even busier, because child support keeps family court extremely busy. The federal government recognized that the child support program keeps family court so busy that you can enter into a contract where family court is actually paid for the services by prioritizing child support. I was very instrumental when I became the director, because we wanted to increase the contract, and we did substantially, because I'm the kind of person that if something's not working, I'm going to dig until I can figure it out, or I'm going to turn to somebody for help. And we found out that a lot of the costs were being looked at were run through the probate lines, because when the court was created, it was the probate court. So we brought in a group called Maximus, and we reviewed some things and got a healthier contract. So I bring that skill set to the table, so I would hope to look for those kind of issues, but I believe you must live within your budget.
To the panel, I would suggest leaving the budget question for last on all of the sections, so that we all stay awake for the stuff people enjoy. The family court budget, particularly the general fund budget, has been flat from 2012 on. So talking about choices, there aren't really very many. The goal at this point is to maintain the services, and we look back, and back in 2009, the general fund take was about $990,000. Now we're at $719,000. The cuts have been made, and at this point, it's just about maintaining. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the drug court is kind of at a crossroads right now. That's been a grant-funded program, largely in big blocks of money. And it's going to be up to Annette and whoever's elected to piecemeal this program back together. And we're going to work with our partners around the community, any agency. If there's anybody out there from an agency who wants to make that happen, please do, because it's an important program. But we're going to maintain funding and maintain services the way that we have in the past. It is difficult working on grants, because money isn't always there, but we do have a creative staff, we do have a committed staff, and they will make it work, and I'm confident in their ability to do so.
Great, we're going to go ahead and go with the closing remarks. So Ms. Hawkins, if you'd like to start, and then we'll just go with the order that you're saying.
Okay, why support me? I have 22 years of consistent experience in the family court. That's what I do. That's what I love to do, and I've always done that. I've not done anything else but do custody, divorce, I'm learning probate, and adoption cases. That's what I do, that's what I love. I believe a skill set that the other candidates do not have. I have run my own office. I have supervised other people. I've done it in the military. I've done it in my professional life before I became a lawyer. I was in charge of other people. I've interviewed people. I've fired people. I've trained people. I believe that if elected, I would be an honest and ethical judge. I'm a good listener, and I have empathy for other people. I believe that's something that's needed to be a good judge. So I'd ask for your consideration in November. I hope that I'll be here again to be the candidates for the Republican Party. But again, I have 22 years consistent experience in the family court. I am, again, a certified mediator. I mediate divorces, custody cases. I serve as guardian ad litem where I represent children. I represent parents in children's services cases. I've done the gamut in family court. No one has as much experience as I do in that area. And I also had the opportunity to serve as a juvenile prosecutor when I was a third-year law student in Allen County, Ohio. So I have that experience also. I know how to review a case. I do criminal defense work too. So I know I know the evidence rules, I know civil procedure, and I know criminal procedure. Those you need to know, you need to have a good knowledge of the law, and I have that. I'm a good researcher and a pretty good writer. Thank you.
Thank you for hosting this important event. All 4 candidates who appear before you tonight are qualified to serve as your judge. It's an important decision. This person will serve 6 years. But I believe I'm the best candidate because I'm the one who has a vision for a healthier Logan County court. I have a proven track record for getting things done. I worked very hard at developing systems to protect children. I have tirelessly defended the family. I brought the community partners to the table. I challenged them to think differently. I challenged them to be creative. We successfully learned how to investigate and prosecute child sexual abuse. We developed a plan of action and we succeeded. When I found out there were people getting young girls pregnant, 5 at one time, I got really upset. I pulled everybody together and we prosecuted that man and we took care of that. I hate to tell you, he's still a drug dealer who's in and out of prison. But when I got on that rampage, if that's what you want to call it, that's my passion. I started a campaign with the school system and we tackled teenage pregnancy and we got the numbers down. I have had 30 years of training. I have gone to the school of hard knocks. I talk to people. I know people. We have got to get a handle on our drug problem. It is devastating to families. Some people are genetically predisposed to using drugs, but I'm here to tell you, as running a job readiness program, if you keep people working and you keep them busy, they're less likely to abuse drugs. They're wonderful role models for our children, and guess what? The people working under the table who don't pay their child support, shame on them, and we need to expect them to work, and we need to expect them to pay. Someday my dream is that child support, the non-payment thereof, will be treated as a 1st or 2nd degree felony because the societal ills that are caused by non-payment are beyond belief. So as your family court judge, I will work hard and I will come up with creative ways to keep people working. If that involves having a fast track or working with the hospital or finding a place to have night court, I'll do it. Thank you.
Mahatma Gandhi once said, action expresses priorities, and I invite you to look at my actions to see where my priorities are. In private practice, I served as a guardian ad litem in protecting the interests of children. I represented parents in custody in children's services cases. I represented juveniles charged as delinquents. I handled adoptions and estates. As prosecutor, I prosecuted child abuse cases, helped our dedicated juvenile court prosecutor with her cases. And as magistrate, I decided I needed to leave the prosecutor's office to be the best qualified candidate for this judge position. And in 14 months as magistrate of the family court, I presided over nearly 1,000 hearings over almost every kind of case that we handle there. And let me tell you, as magistrate, I deal in facts, and as a voter, you should too. And here are the facts. The facts are that I'm the only Republican candidate who's a member of the County Bar Association's Domestic Relations Committee, one of the 3 divisions of this court. I'm the only candidate with judicial experience. I'm the only candidate who sat in every seat of the courtroom. I've represented plaintiffs, the state, I've represented defendants, I've represented people charged with crimes. I've been a victim of violent crime, so I know what that's like as well. I know that victims of crime deserve respect in court proceedings as well. And I will use my wide-ranging experience to achieve justice in every case. And further, I'm the only Republican candidate who is currently active in the family court. Neither of my opponents have ever appeared in front of me in 14 months and 1,000 hearings. Action expresses priorities, and I urge you to give me your vote in the May 6th primary.
I've appeared in family court for the last 14 years as the juvenile prosecutor and as the chief assistant prosecutor. I've had some very ugly cases. My approach in prosecutions is to get things right and to protect children. The family court, their major concern is to look out for the best interests of children. And I've prosecuted so many offenders who have abused children and raped children. I understand those things that are going on. I also understand the drug problem in this community because I deal with it day in and day out. My record on appeal, I've won 36 out of 38 appeals, and that's because I do things right the first time. And those decisions that go up on the Court of Appeals that are considered by 3 appellate judges and sometimes the Ohio Supreme Court, they have agreed with me 36 out of 38 times. That we get the law right, that we get the facts right. You want a judge that knows the law and can get it right. You also want a judge that can look after the best interests of children. My experience in working with youth, in the Scouts, in church, in the prosecutor's office, all show my track record of caring about youth and wanting to work with them and looking for their futures. I hope you consider me for your vote on May 6th. Thank you.
We're going to take a very quick break, and we'll start promptly at 8:10.